If you were a fan of the original Hummer, first of all, what's wrong with you? Second of all, good news. Hummer is back. And this time, it is twice as powerful. Now, if you're like most normal people and you hated Hummers because they were obnoxious gas guzzlers, even better news. With the new Hummer EV, there is nothing to worry about because the new Hummer coming under the GMC badge is set to be fully electric, pumping out 4 figures in horsepower on batteries alone. That might sound too good to be true, but you know what isn't too good to be true? Subscribing to Ideal Media. So hit the subscribe button, turn on the little bell, and let's get into how the Hummer EV is going to save the world. To understand how significant this is, let's dive into the Hummer's original history. The original Humvee hit the market in 1992 as a civilian model of the AM General Military Humvee. And the idea of selling armored military vehicles to civilians became so popular that GM decided to buy them up, rolling out the GM Hummer in 1998, which definitely stayed true to its roots, looking more at place on a battlefield than a city street. The later models of the Hummer, the H2 and H3, definitely look like something your average real estate agent could handle. When it first released, the H2 was a smash hit, but thanks to its terrible fuel economy, it quickly became the target for environmentalists. So much so that in 2003, environmentalists set fire to 20 of them in an LA dealership. Despite public outcry, Hummer kept kicking away, even through GM's bankruptcy in 2008. And it wasn't until 2010 that the last Hummer H3 rolled off the assembly line. And ever since then, in the last decade, Hummer as a brand has disappeared from the civilian market. Pretty much the only time you see a Hummer today is when you see an H2 double parked at the local supermarket. But now, 10 years after its disappearance, Hummer is back, and in a very, very different way. General Motors is about to announce the new Hummer. But this time, instead of it being its own standalone brand, it'll just be part of the GMC family. Probably a smart move by GM to market the Hummer as a premium pickup truck rather than having a whole independent brand focused on that one vehicle. And the new Hummer is basically the antithesis of the original, coming fully electric powered. I'm guessing GM doesn't want their new Hummers getting set on fire by environmental terrorists. GM's been teasing the Hummer EV since January of 2020, but the real marketing started in February with a Super Bowl ad, with an ad featuring NBA superstar LeBron James, who has a pretty interesting collection of his own you should check out up here. And it makes sense that GM went with LeBron James to pitch their new Hummer, because one of the first cars LeBron bought after the NBA draft was a Hummer H2. But apart from some slam poetry from LeBron and a silhouette of what the Hummer EV might look like, which, judging by that silhouette, looks a lot like the Hummer H2 or H2 SUT, since then, what else have we learned about the new Hummer EV? Apart from it being a Hummer and being electric, which is why I'm presenting this. It caught my attention. Many parts of the new Hummer design remain mysterious. However, some teasers and statements from GM have let us in on a little bit behind the covers. During the commercial, they announced some pretty eye-catching specs, like 1,000 horsepower, which pushes this beast to 60 miles per hour in just 3 seconds, with a staggering 11,500 foot-pounds of torque, which is just an absurd amount of torque and kind of sounds like BS to me. But let's dive into what that number actually means. GM isn't totally making this up. Let's just say you want to make a real-world comparison between the current generation Ford Super Duty pickup, which has around 1,000 pound-feet of torque, and the alleged 11,500 offered by the Hummer EV. It's not exactly an apples-to-apples comparison. Sure, electric cars like the Tesla Model S have insane torque numbers and deliver it instantaneously when you push on the fun pedal. And it's a big reason why electric cars are becoming appealing to consumers and manufacturers these days. However, that torque rating from the Hummer EV is measuring wheel torque and not motor torque. These are two very different things. If you want to calculate a vehicle's wheel torque, you need its drivetrain torque output, its transmission gear ratio, and its final drivetrain ratio. And currently, we just do not have that information on the Hummer EV. But what we can tell you is that if you calculate the wheel torque of the 2020 Ram 3500 HD, you're looking at something like 15,000 pound-feet of torque. So is that 11,500 pound-feet on the Hummer EV that impressive? No. But what is impressive is a 0 to 60 time of 3 seconds out of a big pickup truck. Numbers be damned, that's just super fast. And not every Hummer EV is going to come with that amount of power. According to the president of GM, they'll be rolling out 1-motor, 2-motor, and 3-motor models of the Hummer EV, with the 3-motor model being the most powerful. offering one motor on one axle and two motors on the other axle. But those other two models are probably going to be a lot more budget friendly, which means the Hummer EV is going to cater to all types of people on the market with different demands. Production of the Hummer EV is going to be all American, with the pickup truck starting production sometime in 2021 at their Detroit plant. But of course, they'll also be rolling out the Hummer SUV sometime after that. How much later, we don't currently know. But again, it seems like GM's really serious about this because they're offering so many different models and options for the Hummer EV. This is no small task. I mean, don't expect a two-door, two-seater sports car model of the Hummer EV, as much as I would love to be in one. So there's lots of different configurations from body to powertrain. But what's going to be standard on the Hummer EV? Well, for one, GM assures us that the Hummer EV, no matter what you do, is going to be exceptionally quiet. How un-American of them. Which is to be expected from an electrically powered vehicle. I mean, Teslas don't make much noise. One feature you might not be expecting out of Hummer has a little something to do with the animal kingdom. The new Hummer EV is touting a crab mode. Probably a move to help deal with the size of the giant Hummer. Apparently, as this commercial with the Hummer next to an actual crab shows, is that the Hummer EV will be able to maneuver in a crab-like motion to get in and out of tight parking spaces, which when you're driving a big Hummer, all parking spaces are tight. And another feature that the Hummer EV shares with crabs is they'll be pretty good off-road and probably in the sand too. So much so that the American military is already considering using Hummer EVs in the field. Now, there's already been some controversy around this specific point though, which stems from a leak by GM Authority that the wheels are actually smaller than the ones teased in the Super Bowl ad earlier this year, which means it might not be as good off-road as they originally planned, but I'm sure with all that torque and how big the frickin' thing is, it'll probably do just fine off-road. Now the Hummer EV, while unique, is entering a newly crowded market. It's facing some serious competition in the electric truck and off-road SUV space. In 2021, we're going to see the release of a plug-in hybrid Jeep Wrangler, Jeep Grand Wagoner, and the new Ford Bronco. And in the fully electric field, the new Tesla Cybertruck and the Rivian R1T are set to hit the streets sometime in 2021. But when you compare the Hummer EV head-to-head with the Cybertruck and the Rivian R1T, it looks like GM still has a chance to make some waves with the Hummer EV in the electric pickup wars. The 3-motor Hummer EV is expected to outperform the Rivian R1T by nearly 250 horsepower and has pretty much the same range and same starting price, really taking the wind out of the Rivian's sails. Now, the Tesla Cybertruck probably will outperform the Hummer EV in terms of its range, but GM being GM, the Hummer EV is still going to have more power than the Cybertruck. And isn't that the most important part? And while Tesla has claimed that the Cybertruck will start at $40,000, that's 30 grand less than the Hummer EV, you gotta be kind of skeptical when it comes to Tesla. Do we all remember how they bumped the starting price up from the Model 3? So don't be surprised when the same thing happens to the Cybertruck next year. All in all, it seems like the Hummer EV is catered more towards those who care more about power than range, which makes sense for a Hummer. And since it'll most likely beat the other trucks to market next year, it might actually stand a chance of winning the fight. Well, there you have it. The Hummer EV is coming soon. But which electric pickup truck is your favorite? The Rivian, the Cybertruck, or the Hummer EV? Let us know down below. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button and turn on a little bell so that you can see more ideal content as it comes out. And always remember, keep living the ideal lifestyle.